Hello, everybody. Welcome to this amazing, amazing experience that we're all traveling through together. I'm Ari, your host, and today we're interviewing Val Silidker, an amazing, amazing mover and shaker in the conscious world who will tell you all about what she does, because I can introduce people only to a certain degree, but Val will get deeper. So welcome, Val.
Thank you, Ari. It's so wonderful to be with you, and always, any opportunity we have to dive into this great work,
Yes. So Val, I know we've been kind of doing this in the yoga world for so many years, and we were just teaching at a conference together, which is amazing. But tell us a little bit more, because yoga is your thing, but now you're doing something so much more powerful, which is exactly what we're talking about, is the call of self, the confident leadership through sacred service. So tell us how you got to all this like mindset, environment, amazingness that we talked about.
Thank you, honey. Yeah. It's so interesting. So, I taught yoga for many years, but I don't currently teach yoga anymore, but it was definitely part of this whole unfolding for me. I think, this story, how did I get here? I think about 2 decades ago, I really started this journey of self-inquiry in a deep, deep way, where it kind of began for me around looking at how we treat other animals, animal rights, and like, wow, I was just kind of blown away. It was something I had never really thought about, factory farming and all this kind of stuff. And a couple things were happening. One, like an incredible amount of emotion was welling up in me as I heard myself saying like these canned, conditioned responses to that kind of, oh, it's a food chain. Oh, we're meant to do that. I started hearing myself saying these things, and it wasn't feeling and resonating as truth for me anymore. And I started looking deeper and deeper and feeling like my first real heartbreak around how am I showing up in the world, and how do I participate in what doesn't feel good and healthy to me?
Right.
And what changes and choices do I need to make around this? So it began with that. And it started unfolding. As I looked deeper into that, I started becoming more involved as full-on activist, like always I kind of jumped right into the leadership role. It's been my personality in that way. Started organizing demonstrations, created a documentary film called Lolita, Slave to Entertainment, about the marine park industry. Yeah, right. So it's about, it actually focuses on the Miami Seaquarium right here in our backyard, and her plight. She's the longest living captive orca. So my partner and I at the time created Rattle the Cage Productions, which is still around. And we started traveling around learning her story and the story of all animals that are used for entertainment, circuses and this and this. And so I got deeper and deeper into the organization and the demonstrations and the education. And that led me eventually, fast forward, to really connect more with what's happening in our entire ecology of our world. So it wasn't just now about other animals, humans, animals too, but now it's about how do we treat different ecosystems and all living beings within there. And I ended up, my graduate work was in ecology and education. Meanwhile, along the way, I'm, getting certified as a yoga teacher and teaching yoga, and so about how do we connect more deeply with ourselves and our world, while the intellectual side of me is diving in. So the heart is on fire, and the intellectual side of me is on fire, and I'm like, I want to know it all, right? So it's just unfolding for me deeper and deeper, and then into cosmology and understanding the physics of the universe, and just really, it's been an incredible journey of awakening into a deeper and more expanded sense of self, and how then that reflects on our mindset and how we view ourselves and our role as humans, our role in a personal way about how we show up in service to our world ultimately, and how do we live a life that is so grounded in authenticity against this incredible push to act a certain way and be a certain way and do a certain kind of job or make a certain amount of money in order to feel validated in the world. So it really got me into this sort of, what I love to say is, I'm a paradigm hacker. It's like hacking open these things we think we know, these, ideas that we think are true, and really taking a deeper look. So it's, from that space. And then I started working with people and putting together courses and events I've been doing for again, like 20 years, all the way back then, I started these massive events. So all the work that I do comes from this question of how can I serve?
Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful. And
in a nutshell.
Yeah, in a nutshell, right? 1 minute nutshell. And I agree with you, because it's about the service. I can't, stress enough why I'm putting this conference together, and why I want all of us healers, yogis, conscious entrepreneurs to understand that if we step into our greatness, right, into owning our gifts, it's all about serving humanity. Being stuck in your, shitty job that you hate is not serving humanity, right? So power.
Yeah, it's not serving humanity, and it's not serving us. I mean, the old cliched idea, but it's an important one, is like when you're on your deathbed and you look back, have you fully lived the life you were meant to live? And if you don't feel like right now you could say, yeah, I'm fully living that life, then we need to do some serious work, inner work, to get ourselves to that place. Because the way that we create massive shift in this world, a compassionate, positive, forward movement, evolutionarily speaking, from the inside out, is to honor that call of self.
So let's get deeper into this call of self. So what is it that makes you so passionate about it, other than the service aspect? And how can we start understanding how we recognize that, right, within ourselves?
So first of all, it really begins with understanding what that is. Like, what is the call of self? What does it mean, really?
Yeah.
And I think it begins with an assumption that each of us has within us the capacity to tune in deeply to a sense of life purpose. Right? That there is something inside of us, and that as we do our inner work, we, in a sense, come home to that deepest sense of who we are beyond our stories, beyond these layers of ideas that have been piled upon us about how we should be or what we should do. We really start listening to that inner voice, and we start to discover this thing that is something that, in a sense, we are born with. We have this incredible gift inside of us. Each one of us has something so powerful within us. And we could call it a divine purpose, or a thing that we're born to do, it's written in the seed of us. And the deeper we go in our self-exploration, the more we start to become in tune with what that thing is, because it's the thing that brings us most alive, right? That is ultimately our great work in the world. Right? So we have this calling, this deeper calling, and through it, we express it into our great work. And the great work is not necessarily the job that you take on. Okay. It actually is deeper than that. So for instance, Ari, let's say you're a yoga teacher, right? But that's not the deepest calling. That's your personal delivery system. And your deepest calling may be to inspire people to awaken to the potential within them, or to create a deeper sense of peace in our world through individuals connecting with their own sense of peace.
Yeah.
And then you find what you're connected to, what's your delivery system. It could be yoga, it could be writing, it could be documentary filmmaking, it could be working in an office job and just connecting with people. That it could be being a mother, like fully embracing that, working with children. It comes in so many ways, but the heart of it is that deepest calling, that call of self. And if we continue listening deeply, it will guide us in our lives, in the directions that we need to go, and the delivery systems that we want to take on, and then, cultivate to become excellent at them. But it comes from this deeper sense. And there, one of the poets who I love so deeply, David White, he says it's the largest conversation that we're capable of having with the world. What is that inside of us?
Wow. And it actually, like, when you say that, when you said that quote, it's, it kind of like brings us back to like our divine essence, which is the universe just within us. So it's like we're having a conversation with the world by also having that conversation with ourselves, right? It's like a total mirror of what's happening outside is happening inside. So
absolutely. Everything is interconnected.
Of course.
When I think about ecology, as a deep ecologist, and ecologist, my ecology is not something that's outside of us. It's something that begins within us. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we take in, the information that we take in, all of it is flowing inside, outside. Everything is so deeply connected.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with studying our modern cosmology, what science has taught us about the universe, and how the more we dive into that, which is something I'm so passionate about, the deeper we begin to understand ourselves as universe, as an expression of this 13.7 billion year unfolding that's brought us here to this conscious awakening that's happening inside of the human species. So the universe is not something outside of us, it's something that is here resonating within us.
Yeah.
And when we look at Earth and when we look at universe, we're also looking at ourselves. So every time we connect with that deeper calling that's within us, we are ultimately showing up on behalf of the collective, on behalf of evolution, and this movement that's happening inside of us all right now, this deeper calling.
Yeah. Oh, lovely stuff. I'm like, we could probably do like a 3-hour interview. So how do we discover?
Sum it up in sound bites.
I know. So how do we discover our deepest calling and our greater work? I'm sure there's a process. I hope like some people just one day you're like, ta-da! But I know I went through a process to have the ideas that, like, I allowed myself to have ideas that weren't, making me feel small. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really, it's a deep question, and it's an entire process. One discovering what that is for ourselves, and the other part of that is how then putting it into action.
Right.
How do we then put it into action? So, I think all living things, all of us have within us, and all living things in general, have a drive to evolve.
Right.
We have this to become the fullest realization of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We naturally have that inside of us. And the process of becoming can be supported consciously. So the question then becomes, how do we consciously support ourselves in this self-awakening, really, right? Because enlightenment is not something that we're seeking outside of ourselves. It's something that's right here. It's always here. We're already awakened and whole. We just need to peel off those layers and get to it, So it's this sense of, one, awareness, becoming deeply aware, and I'll talk about that. And then the second part of it is our will, engaging our will. So the first part, awakening.
Yeah.
So we all have within us this incredible ability as a human species of self-reflexive consciousness. This is one of the unique things about human beings. So we have this ability to reflect upon ourselves in a very unique way. Like even, in meditation, we say, I am the one having these thoughts, right? There's another way that we're seeing ourselves as the one having the thoughts.
Okay.
So we can actually kind of separate our into our deeper self, and then see this self that's carrying out this work and having the thoughts and doing the summit and engaged in conversation. But always there's this unchanging thing within us. Right. So we have this ability to come back to this space and reflect on ourselves, this deep self-inquiry that we can constantly do. And we get to ask ourselves these deep questions like, what brings me alive? In what situations do I experience the maximum satisfaction of my whole being? And when we start to deepen into those questions and give ourselves the gift of time, because our world is on automatic and we're all moving on fast forward. Right. And oftentimes we don't stop and reflect enough into what's really here. And so a lot of times we can just become totally derailed and we don't even get it for years. We're like, why do I feel miserable? Why do I feel unfulfilled? And when's the last time you really stop to be present to what's alive in you and if this feels good? Yeah. So it's about tuning in and tapping in and listening more deeply to what's inside of us. And when we do that, we can begin exploring in so many ways, right? We can do dream work, for instance. We can start looking at the symbols in our dreams and what our unconscious is speaking to us through our dream state. We can take a look at how we feel in the most divine, with our most divine experiences, like on the mountaintop, connected to universe, God, deeper essence, ourselves, and say, whoa, okay, what am I meant to be doing right here? Like, I'm tapped in. What's here for me?
Right.
And we can also discover it in our deepest heartbreaks, in those moments in our lives that are the dark night of the soul, where we are completely broken open and we don't know what end is up, and we feel ultimately challenged by our experience, and we feel like we want to just throw it all in and give up. But in those moments, there's so much information. There's so much gold in those darkest, most challenging experiences that can give us information and insight into what we need to be doing. And, you know, a great example that just came to me, I've lived in Florida my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was younger, there was an incredibly tragic thing that happened with a kidnapping and ultimately a death of this young boy named Adam Walsh. I don't know if you remember this, but Adam Walsh was kidnapped from a mall, like in Hollywood, I think.
Okay.
And he was later found killed. And his father was John Walsh, who then went, you know, had this tragic experience of losing his son, and then took that and ended up being the host of America's Most Wanted. And America's Most Wanted was this, everybody knows the show, right? Through this incredible platform and delivery system, he took this call that welled up inside of him, like he could not in any way deny it. He took all this tragedy and he turned it into something so incredibly profound that it affected so many lives. It saved countless lives. And he honored that dark experience and transformed it into something incredibly powerful by going into service for the world. Mm-hmm. So we can discover, you know, this calling through so many different ways. And it ultimately comes down to knowing who we are. Yeah. And not only knowing who we are in isolation, but knowing who we are in relationship to other, right, in relationship to life, you know? So that's this awareness part, you know, that starts bringing us more deeply into ourselves. And when we start diving in, we're also going to be confronted with these obstacles, you know, that are like, why did I think this? Yeah. So we start to see how different things have played a role in keeping us from knowing ourselves. For instance, society. Yeah. Right? So we live in this culture of consumerism. We live in this sort of manufactured world that teaches us through advertisements and commercials, and you're just bombarded. Our mental environment is bombarded with how you're supposed to be, and the life you're supposed to live, and what's really meaningful and purposeful. And so it sometimes pulls us away from ourselves when we start getting caught up in these other ideas. And our educational system is a big part of this, because the educational system mirrors our dominant paradigm. So our educational system is set up to take young folks, all of us, into this process of becoming a functional person in a dysfunctional society that needs some serious shifting. Oh, yeah. So by the time we get out of school, we're set up to become God knows what, probably based on how much money we'll make, but not based on what we're driven to in our heart. So there's another thing we have to take a look at. Maybe in our childhood, we experienced some wounds from childhood that are still with us, that are keeping us from connecting deeply. And another big, huge thing is our cognitive distortions. And what I mean by that are self-defeating thoughts. Okay, so the things that, right, these limiting beliefs, these ideas, you know, and we see this play out in so many ways. Sometimes we have like all or nothing thinking. So like, I'm on a diet and I take a bite of ice cream and I'm like, forget it, I ruined the whole thing. And then you get so upset that you eat the whole pint. Yeah. It was black and white, all or nothing. And that's a self-sabotage. Yeah. Another thing is when we focus too much on like negative ideas, and we start like, so we're so focused in the negative that when a positive thing happens, we're like, yeah, that was good, but it wasn't really important. Yeah. And we discount all the positive things, and we just sort of start filtering them out and focusing just on the negativity. So we have to watch our thought process. Yeah. Sometimes we exaggerate situations, and we find ourselves in that kind of place where, you know, maybe we've all probably done this, where you're not feeling well, but you're home and you're capable of handling it. And then your honey comes home and you're like, oh, I'm so sick. It's awful. I really need like love and dinner and like a massage. So we exaggerate, but you know, in the realistic way, like we can make ourselves feel worse by exaggerating the situation. Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah. So we have to watch our thoughts. Sometimes we're constantly blaming other people for what's happening to us. And we're like, oh, you know, they're making me feel this, they're making me feel that, they did this to me, so I can't do this. And we start to blame, put it all out there, give all our power away, rather than recognizing that we are ultimately responsible. Yeah. So in all these ways, we start to limit ourselves, and we start to see these obstacles that we need to move through in order to really connect with what's calling us in the space.
Yeah, no, and everything you're saying, it's like you could always find a place in your life where that's happened, and then you realize where you created the shift.
Yeah.
Right? Like you talked to me 2 years ago and I still probably would have been in like, oh, they're making me feel bad, or like they did that, so now I'm, and you just have to move past that idea that like everything, you are the source of everything, right? So it's like, and I was just I was seeing Tony Robbins, and he kept bringing that back to you. It was like, you say, oh, I don't have the resources, I don't have the money, I don't have the this, oh, I can't afford this. Be resourceful. That's, bringing it back to you. Oh, I can't do this. Be resourceful. Learn it, figure it out. Like, own your shit, own your greatness, both. It's a flip of the coin, right? For me,
absolutely.
It's so
and it's such an awesome thing, because here's the great thing about it. It's not up to anyone else.
Right.
It's you. So you get to create your world. You get to write the next chapter. You can do anything, absolutely anything. And this is where recruiting the will comes in. Yeah. Our ability to make choices that are in alignment with our highest vision of who we are and what we're called to do and the work we want to do in the world. We ultimately get to do everything, and anything that tells us we're not good enough or we're not ready. These are the stories that we have to take a look at. How are we going into the story that's keeping us? Mm-hmm. And what's really, the fear underneath it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how do we recruit the will, right? Because it's such a big part to listen deeply to what's inside of us, because ultimately, like we're saying, we create it. We also know it. Like if we're listening, really listening, we have got this little voice inside of us that is directing us. Like, this is the way that you need. This is the next step you need to take. Can you listen to that? Or we may feel it in our bodies. You get a hit somehow, something feel good.
Yeah. Or you get like,
we don't listen. We go and listen. But if we start listening to that, our bodies have so much information for us, because under the forefront of our consciousness is like an iceberg. The forefront of our consciousness is like just the tip sticking out of the water. But under the water, there's this massive amount of unconscious, where everything you've ever experienced and everything you've ever read and everything you've ever learned is right there. And you may not fully have access to it in this moment, but it is supporting you, whether you realize it or not.
Yes.
And so when it comes to making a choice, when we can listen deeply to that little angel that's whispering and nudging us a certain way, or we can feel our body going, this isn't feeling right for some reason, or it's, oh my God, this feels so, I got it. This is a hell yes in every way. When we can start listening to that, we are directing ourselves. We are ultimately beginning to understand the ways in which we are telling ourselves what we already know.
Yeah.
Right. And then we get to recruit the will in this super powerful way and make choices that are fully our own. They're not coming from somebody else's ideas or society's ideas. They're coming from our own pure sense of who we are and what we need to do to take the next steps to accomplish our magnificent work in this world.
Yeah. Oh, I'm like, I hear that. No, and when you say like the will, like then you put the action part into it, and then it's like skyrockets, right? It's so amazing, because if our desire is strong enough, if our want is strong enough to pursue those like things that are like tickling us, it just has to get done, right? So
how bad do you want it?
How bad do you want it?
How do you want to fully live this life?
Yeah.
And you know what? There's a cool exercise actually I can share. It's called XTCs. I call it experimental threshold crossings.
Okay.
And it's this wonderful way of self-reflection in our lives to bring this into the forefront of our consciousness. So what that looks like is, let's say we just got in an argument with our beloved or something like that, right? We've all been there many more times than we want it, right? So we had this moment where we were not coming from our highest vision of self. And then we can go, oof, okay. So X, it's about looking at the X and looking at the Y. So the X is who we are right now, the choices we're making right now that are not always in alignment with the highest vision of who we are and what we want. And the Y is the highest vision of who we are and what we want. Okay. So we come to this moment and we reflect and we say, okay, that was my X, but in that situation, what would Y do? What would the highest vision of myself do? You know, if I want to write that book, but I'm not writing. Okay, that's my X making excuses. But what would Y do? Y would create, a system where I create a certain amount of time each day, and that's my writing time, and I take away everything else, and I give myself that gift, and I stick to it. That's what why would do. Right. So we get to keep coming back to that question. So we come to a moment where I have to make a choice. Okay, here's my threshold. Okay, what would why do? What would my highest vision of myself absolutely without any excuses do? I may have the excuse. I may even give in to the excuse, but what would why do right now?
Right.
So we get to keep asking that question. That keeps eventually sculpting ourselves, because we all live on automatic. We all have automatic behaviors that we create over time. Mm-hmm. But if we start to reflect and understand what those are and the habits that aren't serving us, and we keep asking what would why do, and we can slowly start making new choices to the point that we create a new normal, a new behavior, and then we can stop thinking about it because it becomes our automatic behavior, which is to now do that thing that serves us.
Right.
So it's a great little fun thing to just like keep us in the forefront of our consciousness about this.
Yeah. And we know that for this type of work, you need to apply tools and techniques, because if not, we get lost in the same pattern and the same mindset and the same everything. Because imagine if we've conditioned ourselves for around 36 years to be like, I'm not strong enough or whatever, right?
Right.
How hard is that to break without a tool? It's like you need a hammer for the nail. Like, so what,
Absolutely.
And great tool.
The thing too, Ari, is that there are so many tools.
There's so many, exactly.
It's not just like this is the way and the only way. Like there's so many. I could think offhand, like you just said Tony Robbins, and I'm thinking of Byron Katie and the work of, is this true? Really checking in with the truth of that story and how we reframe our stories. And there's so much work around limiting beliefs, and there's endless tools for us to tap into, and really, the work of NVC, nonviolent communication. Like I could just think of so many tools that we can recruit and just see, what do you connect with? Because many of them can serve us, and sort of deconstructing the paradigm that we've created in our world and reconstructing and reframing things in a way that serves us ultimately with our world.
Oh, fully. So now that we're kind of talking about, acting and will, right? Turning will into action. There's that essence of sometimes a feeling, well, somebody else is already doing what I'm doing. Somebody else has already created a business of yoga course, like Yoga Journal has one. And I was like, well, they're not me, right? I'm not them. So how do we talk about this like essence of maybe competition, or how does someone move through the idea of competition and bring what they have powerfully to the world?
Yeah, this is such a great question. And it's one that I end up addressing a lot of times, because I think a lot of times when we see that, like, okay, Yoga Journal already has a conference and they're doing a great job. And so, I'm not going to bring, because who am I? Like, how can, right? So we have this idea, right? But here's the heart of it. Here's the heart of it for me, right? The universe thrives on diversity. Mm-hmm. And so when we start to really think about that and ourselves as this expression of the universe, we get that we are each such unique beings. I put it this way. We have, each of us, unique fingerprints. The iris of every eye is completely different. Mm-hmm. No two zebra have the same stripe. Yeah. Every orca on their back of their dorsal fin has a certain pattern. Like every single one of us is so completely unique. Mm-hmm. And we are born into this world, first of all, biologically unique. We have this DNA. We have, our particular ancestry that's passed down this wisdom. And ultimately, obviously, when we go way back, we all come from this common source. So we have this collective wisdom, and we have this unique individual shaping that has happened. We unfold through evolution in our mother's womb. Literally, we go through every stage of evolution. And all of that wisdom is written inside of our DNA. So then you, as a unique being, are born into this world right there. Now, you are shaped by your environment, your family, your culture, the religion or spirituality that you're born into, the experiences that you have, the brilliant moments, the heartbreaks, the information, the ways that you connect to those particular delivery systems and dive in. So there's a certain amount of knowledge that you've acquired through your training. All of it, the wisdom that you get through your particular life choices. So each of us is so incredibly unique. Mm-hmm. There is no one in the world like you. Yeah. There never will be, there never was, there isn't now. And so knowing that And knowing that we get to make choices in our life and show up in our work with the authority of 13.7 billion years of evolution right here.
Yeah.
And, 37 years or 40 something years or whatever years you are of this incredible knowledge and wisdom that you gained in your life in the particular way that you have been shaped. Only you can bring what you have. Only you can bring what you have. Competition is a fallacy. It's all about cooperation. This is our natural state. Yeah. Even just a couple of days ago, I have a 2-year-old. He's almost 3. And I'm talking about this with my husband, this idea of competition and cooperation. And what is our natural state? Yeah. And I'm looking at my son and the way he plays, and there is zero competition in the way he plays. Even when he plays a game with another person, or it's a race or anything, ultimately, it doesn't even matter. Whoever wins, and then they're all like, yay! And there's no sense of, it's all about cooperative play. It's all about just playing together. And that's what we're doing right now. We can call it work, but we're playing. Yeah. Right? Life is this big game of make-believe. When we were kids, we knew it was a game. And then we just started believing it so much. And then you liked my game, so we started playing together. And now this collective game of make-believe, and we're still playing in it. And we're still playing, and we're still in the space of knowing that we are each bringing something so powerful and unique. And so what I love about this is that not only are we invited to bring what we have, our own unique magnificence. But in order to be in the deepest amount of service, we have to tap into that space and bring what we have. Because ultimately, if we don't, not only are we not living a full and complete life, but the world doesn't get to receive the unique way we have of showing up.
Exactly.
Or if you're a coach, let's say, there could be 1,000 coaches out there. But not everybody is going to connect with this person or that person. And there's certain people that are going to only totally fully connect with you, right. Your energy, your way of speaking, your mindset, your knowledge, all of it. And so, you're doing a disservice to the world to not do that project, to not take on those clients, to not show up fully with all that you have. Yeah. And the second part I want to add to that is that this is again about this idea of competition and cooperation, is that so we're so unique. We want to show up fully with everything we have, and we want to support each other in that. This is the other part. So it's not only not about competition, it is about how can I serve you as a fellow yoga teacher, as a fellow coach, knowing that we each have something so unique to bring. And if someone doesn't resonate fully with me, I'm going to send them to you, because ultimately what I want is for them to step into their greatness. And if you have the particular unique set of skills that's going to do that for them, I want to put you guys together, because I'm not going to be so self-serving that I'm going to try to pull them in with falsehoods because I want their business, because right. That's not honest. Right. I ultimately what we want is for our world to step into its magnificence. Yeah. So in order to do that, we have to serve each other, support each other, and, create the constellation. Yeah. All the stars that rise together. That's where we are. And I think that if we look at it that way and we frame it that way, we begin to tap into not only ourselves as unique beings, but ultimately our natural state of confidence that comes from removing these ideas and stories. Yeah. Because I don't believe that confidence is something that we develop. I believe it is something that is innately and naturally within us, that's been sort of conditioned out of us through these layers and layers and layers that have been piled on. The stories, the wounds, all the stuff that we talked about already. Yeah. That keeps us from feeling into our natural state of who we are, how powerful we are. And once we remove those layers and get into that space, we can only feel confident to bring it in service to the world.
Yeah, no, it's yes. And I'm like, yeah, no, yeah, yes, big yes. And it's, you did a summit as well, which you guys should check out, you guys who are watching. And for me, like, the exciting part about doing this summit is that I got to like work and play and have these like awesome conversations with some of the people that I'm like, I admire you. Like, I get a chance to be with you in this space, versus being like, she's doing something a little similar than I am. Let me not interview this person because it'll compete with me. It's like, no, because you have a totally different approach to what I'm saying. And we come from different backgrounds. And again, it's like, I think I said this, I say it in my course because I deal with with the word competition in the course and talking about our uniqueness, it's like, what are you the creator of, right? What did you create? Nobody else can create what you create because it's from your heart and from your soul, right? So no one else is going to be like that.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And, you know, when we speak of service, when we speak of doing these things from this space of wanting to serve, it's really important to recognize that being in service is in no way sacrificing ourselves. It's the ultimate honor. It's like how we ultimately honor ourselves is by being in service. And to be in service means we have to freaking rock it. I'm not going to serve the world half-assed. I'm not going to give you part of me because I don't feel like, you know, I've really got like there's something inside of me that I need to share with the world and the world needs. So to be ultimately in service, to ultimately, you know, create a kick-ass business and thrive at it so we can reach 1 million people with the work that we have to bring, you know, we have to give it everything we have. We have to be all in, 100% in, and do whatever inner work we need to do with whatever tools we connect with in order to bring ourselves so fully and serve so fully that we can make this difference in the world. And we can look back at that point in our transition to the great mystery of whatever and say, wow, what a life I have lived and what great service I have left and what an amazing legacy I have given to my children and their children and created these incredible synergistic relationships and served, you know, each other. And yes, that's the yes we all want to live in.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about fear? Because we talk about competition, we talk about being unique, we talk about sharing our gifts. And I know we like touched upon it, but you know, I'm scared. I'm scared to embark on a new adventure, or, you know, I'm scared nobody's going to like what I'm giving. I'm scared that I'm not experienced enough. Like the self-defeating, you know, that's like I like to call it like Godzilla when it like comes into the city and it's just like, ah, and you're like, yeah, that's scary. That is scary. Like, I'd be like, all right, I'm scared of Godzilla. Like, don't be scared of yourself, right? Like, so how do we move through fear and step into confidence as leaders, right? Because that's a huge word. You know, oh, I'm just a yoga teacher. You know, I was just at this big conference, and the first day, you know, talking to people that are very successful in their fields, they'd be like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a yoga teacher. They're like, okay. And then I was talking to my friend and she's like, dude, you're not just a yoga teacher. I was like, you're right. Second day, what do you do? Well, I created an online business course. I am also an international retreat leader, and I'm a yoga teacher. Boom, right? I felt like I owned it, and it was like, tell me more. So leadership comes from like understanding that we are so much more than just this generic brand, right? We're not like white rice. We're like the organic, super milled, like cream of the crop, right?
Yes, that's right.
So tell us about this whole like fear and leadership. How do they work together?
So first, just to reflect on what you were just saying about, what do you do? I'm a yoga teacher. What do you do? Well, I create this business and I help entrepreneurs and I also teach yoga. And then as an invitation, going even that step further and saying, well, what do you do? So now go into that, your great work that we talked about in the beginning, this deeper calling of what you do. So when you say, well, why do you?
Why? Yes.
Okay, so why are you a yoga teacher? Why do you create these online businesses? What's your why? What's the deepest part of what's living in you? Because that's the great work. So you could say, I teach people how to create the deepest sense of peace in their life. I mean, I'm just making this up, you know.
No, but I feel you. I'm there.
Feel into their great gifts and create a business in this world that thrives so that they can bring it to the world powerfully. Wow, how do you do that? Through teaching yoga, through entrepreneurship, right? So it's ultimately when we're creating that, crafting our message even, and how we share what we are, we want to come from that ultimate space. Yeah. So I just wanted to go right there because I think that also taps into our confidence.
Yes.
When we really can identify what that is that we are ultimately bringing to the world and really start to own it. Yeah. You know, it brings us, again, back into that natural state of confidence that's beyond our stories and beyond those fears. That being said, we all have fear. It's totally natural. It's going to come up in us. You know, fears of speaking out in public. You know, we get those butterflies and we're like, I don't know if I can do this. Like all that stuff comes up. It really does. And it makes me think, oh, this is what's coming to me, is this, you maybe even have heard this story, but I'm going to tell it with a little twist. So for anybody who's listening, you may have heard this story. And it's this story, it's a Cherokee legend of the two wolves. You know it?
No.
Okay. All right. So it's so in a nutshell, grandson is speaking to his grandfather and he says, "Grandfather, there's a great war inside of me between two wolves." This is the short version. One of the wolves is this wolf of fear and all that it represents. And the other wolf is a wolf of love, empowerment, and all, you know, connection and all the things that represents. You know, and you know, what do I do? Which wolf is going to win? And in one version, the popular version, the grandfather says, "Whichever wolf you feed."
Okay.
Okay. So then there's this extended version that is written from a Cherokee with the deeper message that really needs to be said through the story. And that is this: both wolves need to be fed. Okay, so it's easy to feed the wolf of love, right? We can think of a million ways that we fall in love and feed that love. And, you know, that's in a sense easy, maybe not always, but that's an obvious thing. Yeah. So what does it mean to feed the wolf of fear? Why do we want to feed fear? So here it is. When there's something arising inside of us that's scary, that's challenging us, if we ignore it or turn our back on it or try to pretend it's not there or find ways to distract ourselves, escape, numb out, go to addictions, right?
That was my first
to all kinds of things in this world, especially right now. You know, the feeling of the intensity of our world right now is driving many people into the space of fear and into this numbing out, distraction, run away, right? So when we do that, ultimately what happens to our fear is it grows because it wants attention. Yeah. And when you don't give it attention, it becomes really fierce. And it's going to keep banging at you and tugging at you and pulling at you in ways that you may not even recognize. It's going to come out in all kinds of relationships. It's going to come out in all kinds of ways. So we can't only feed the wolf of love and turn our back on our fear. We have to take this element that's arising inside of us, whatever form that fear is taking, and embrace it like a child. Embrace it with love. Feed it with love and understanding and compassion, and say, I know that there's something here, that there's a message here that you're trying to protect me. Because ultimately when we're afraid of something, it's because we're trying to protect ourselves. There's like a little personality, in what I do, we call it subpersonality, a little identity that we've created in our lives based on something that we've experienced that's there to protect us. It's not ultimately serving us, but it's trying to protect us when fear comes up. It wants to protect you from looking stupid. It wants to protect you from, you know, you name it, right? From failure. It wants to protect you from success, because what will happen then? Like, it wants to protect you. So if we turn to that fear and we say, you know, I'm here. I understand that you're trying to be in service. And I understand that you have incredible gifts inside of you, a fierceness, a passion, a desire, you know, to protect. Like, these are great qualities. Yeah. So let's have a conversation. You know, how can we take these qualities that are in you that aren't ultimately serving and use them in ways that can serve? So we go into the fear. You know, Carl Jung said, that which we resist persists. And that's the idea here. We don't want to resist it. We want to go into the wound, because our destiny ultimately is in the thing that feels like it's opposing us, the fear that's tugging at us, the challenge that we're having. And when we go into that space, we recognize that, coming back to this idea that there is so much information in the fear, in the challenge, in the dark night of the soul, in that space that we feel like we want to run from. There's so much there for us. So when we face that, ultimately, what we do is we strengthen our sense of self. We strengthen our sense of confidence as leaders, because we recognize that though we may have these fears, and even the feeling of fear may not totally go away, when we also have compassion for that fear that's arising and for ourselves ultimately, when we ultimately love the challenge that's coming up, in a sense that we are getting the information from it and welcoming it into ourselves and integrating it into who we are, we come into the sense of courage that is so powerful and so profound that our confidence expands, our leadership expands, and we're able to go on that stage and do it anyway, because we've had this conversation. We're going on with our fear. Me and fear, are on stage speaking right now.
Right.
We're here. All of it's here right now with me, and I'm able to make the choice and do it anyway, because I recognize that it isn't something that can keep me from the greatest gift. It's something that can ultimately, I can integrate, and then it can serve me in my greatest service of the world. So that's it. We go into the opposition, into the thing that seems like it's against us, and we welcome it in till it's no longer against us. It's now integrated and part of who we are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Confidence and leadership right there.
Yeah. No, and it's so true, because the moment you face your fear, you like up level yourself, right? Absolutely. It's like, oh, there it is. It's not as scary as I thought, right? You get to that point. You're like, oh, the Godzilla that was this big is really this big. You're like, I'm bigger than that, right?
It's just a story, our fear. I have a great friend who, just like Tony Robbins, leads fire walks, and he's done over 200 fire walks. He's amazing. And this whole idea, maybe you've done them, is you see this fire, like the hot coals that are burning at this super high degree. I don't even know what temperature they're at. And you think, I'm going to burn my feet. Oh my God. And you go to take your first step and you hesitate because I'm going to burn my feet. I have the story that tells me that this is what's going to happen. What if? We go into what if mode, and then you start walking and you're like, oh my God, I could totally dance on the coals, right? And you get to the other side and you're like, it wasn't the coals. It was just, I had this crazy idea, this crazy story that I was going to get burned. But when I actually did the thing, I realized it was just a story.
Yeah.
So how many times in our lives do we have a story of the worst possible case scenario that is just a story? It's not true. It's just a story.
I know.
But what happens if we try it anyway and recognize that it was absolutely amazing?
Yeah.
So what if this could happen, but what if that could happen? Can we transform our fear into curiosity, into a new reframe of the what if worst case scenario into a what if most amazing case scenario?
Right.
What if I step on stage and somebody hears me speak and I get invited to do this and I write this amazing book and I change all these lives? What if, wow, like that's possible too.
Exactly. And that like just switch in the mind is a switch it for the rest of your life.
Yes.
So that's like opportunity, like knocking on your door to, I'm still scared of cockroaches. I'm trying to work. Oh my God.
Cockroaches are,
I know. My husband's like, is it a lion? Is it going to eat you? I'm like, you never know.
I know. When the more different things are from us, the more creepy they seem to feel.
Oh my God. No, but that's so amazing. And one of my goals is to not just empower, healers, yogis, but if I was scared to create this program, what if like one person changed, right, their life and the lives of their family? And like that to me, like just fuels me. And as I'm sure when you work with your clients, it fuels you, because I just want to see everybody do well, and not just well, but excellent. Right.
Yes,
so
we want our world to thrive.
We want our world to thrive.
And we're not alone in this. We're all in this together. So how do we each contribute to supporting each other? And create this thriving world together, a compassionate world that's grounded, that's interconnected, that's awakened and aware. We're in the midst of this. I keep coming back to this idea that evolution happens under the greatest amount of pressure.
Yes.
And so right now we're being invited in our personal lives to step it up, and as a collective to step it up, because we have a lot of obstacles that we're facing right now.
I think we're reading each other's minds. I was like, if I could send this summit and your summit and a couple other people's summits to like all the politicians right now, worldwide.
I always said, I wish there was like this one giant screen and we could just hack it and play what needs to be played, right? Like anonymous. and everybody has to tune in on every station everywhere. It's totally like, hit the airwaves.
There has to be a hacking of TVs, because I think I turn my TV on like once a month, but I know other people have it on a lot more. I'm like, if we could just like,
But you know what, Ari, it's happening. This is our global awakening. You know, it's happening in with conscious self-awareness is not just about our individual selves. It's also about how we communicate our inner world to each other. And because we have this incredible technology to be able to bring things like the summits that we're bringing and reach a global audience of thousands of people worldwide, we engage everybody in this conversation that takes all of us to the next level. And then we get to evolve exponentially because of it. So the hijack is happening. The hacking, it's here. It's right here. It's happening right here. And we create a ripple effect into our world. You know, we think in such short term a lot of times, but if we expand our sense of time and we recognize that we are engaged in an evolution which happens slowly, that even though things seem so freaky and backwards right now in our world, that ultimately it's creating a situation that is necessary to push us into this quantum leap of consciousness, this quantum leap of, you know, self-awareness and all of us stepping into our great work, because we have to do it right now.
It's definitely in our best interest at the end of the day, right? To do it. So all you guys who are watching, like, listen to us and everybody else around you that is just rooting for team Earth, team human. Own it. Own your amazing gifts and share them however way you can. You know, again, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and Russell Brunson, amazing human, he just keeps saying, share your content, no matter what, share your content. So obviously our demographic is yogis, right? Yogi hearts. Share your content however way you can. Classes, podcasts, so many avenues to just get it out there. Blog, write, manifest, create. So
yeah, I like to say, like, every opportunity we have to deepen the conversation. Yeah. That can be one-on-one.
Yeah.
You know, you may have a conversation with somebody, you know, we affect lives beyond what we are even aware of. You know, we may be at dinner, Ari, having a really engaged and passionate conversation, and somebody at the next table overhears something and goes home and Googles whatever and decides to take a class, and it becomes their awakening. And then that person may write a book because of what they heard with us speaking, and that book changes 1 million lives. And we just don't know. We all affect each other. We're all together in this web of life. And so by living in our truth, you know, by living our deepest call of self, by being confident leaders and in our sacred service, by doing all of this, we transform the world in ways that we can never possibly know. We just trust. We trust that this is happening. Yeah. And that's why what you're doing is so awesome, because, you know, we may have this idea, we may have this confidence, but we don't really know how to do it. So what you're doing is you're giving people this platform to now refine their delivery system, their business, the way in which they can bring their message to the world powerfully. And in it, we're having the conversation. It's not just about having a successful business that's, you know, makes you $1 million, right? It's about ultimately coming from the heart and creating a business that is the highest vision of how you're called and who you are. Because making $1 million in a business that does not fulfill you is not success.
No, it's not success.
No. But having a thriving business that reaches lives and creates deep sustainability for you so that you can continue to bring this on higher and higher platforms rocks. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. You know, coming fully from service and doing it in a way that is so powerful that reaches more people. Yeah. And then allows us to do it. Because I think a lot of times when we're in the yoga community, the spiritual community, this and this and this, there's sort of this relationship to money that's really like, oh, I can't really make money if I'm doing something in service. But let's understand that we are the people that need to be able to be sustainable at the things we do so we can continue doing it on higher and higher levels. Because we are taking this money, this thriving business, and creating amazing things with it that are life-changing. So we are the ones that need to be thriving more. So trust in that energy exchange. We can buy a $5 Starbucks drink, or spend $100 on a massage, or do these other things. We can spend it on a course that betters us, that teaches us the tools we need to go in and do this inner work and create a more powerful ripple effect into the world.
Yeah,
So that's why we're here. That's why I really honor what you're bringing. It's very important.
oh, thank you so much. Yeah. And that's the name of the summit, is turning energy into currency.
Beautiful. Yes, exactly. That's right. That's right.
So to finish up, Val, I know we have some amazing gifts that you have wholeheartedly given to our guests, not only for just joining your email list, but also to purchase the VIP upgrade, which just keeps getting juicier and juicier. I love it. It's guys, I mean, again, this is an investment for life. You just heard us. We're obviously both very passionate about what we do. And the more we invest in our livelihood, the better. So suck up the Starbucks for a month.
Make coffee at home.
Make coffee at home, drink some tea for a while, whatever you have to do. But again, invest in yourselves. This is not, and remember, like, all the profit, well, not all the profit, but a portion of the profit that I get from the summit, from Busy Yogi, goes back to charity. I have a charity in Peru that I work with, and my next step is elephants and rhinos. I like both animal and human kingdom alike.
So we're all animals.
We're all animals.
Human animals, non-human animals, we're all here together. So yes, let us love each other.
Yeah. So tell us about the gifts so that everyone's excited.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So the free gift for everybody that everybody can download, whether you upgrade or not, is an ebook called 10 Tools for Powerful Living. And it's an awesome collection of ideas and actions and exercises to help us deepen our interconnection with life. There's a lot of just some really focused goodness in that. And I want, everybody to have that for free. And then for anybody who does want to upgrade and own all of these amazing interviews that Ari is doing, and really be able to watch and rewatch this over and over again and get all these incredible bonuses, I'm also going to throw in, as Ari had said earlier, I just finished the Awaken to Wholeness Summit, awakentoWholenessSummit.com. And when people upgraded in my summit, what they also got was a course with me, the Awaken to Wholeness course. So I'm going to give that course to you. And I'm really excited to do that because it touches on the three main themes of the summit that I brought, which was our modern cosmology, our universe story. So understanding ourselves and the powers that are within us as universe from a scientific, from the point of view of physics, really powerful, deeply connected work. It taps into the great turning and the work that we are being called to engage in right now through compassion, through action, through insight and wisdom. And then the third part of the summit touches on our psychological and spiritual wholeness, psychospiritual wholeness, which has a lot to do with the work that I do as a psychosynthesis coach. And it's very, very powerful. And as well, you'll get that course. And then if people want to sign up for the summit, they'll also get 2 free interviews. And one of them is with evolutionary cosmologist Brian Swim, who's one of my mentors. And it's a 2-hour freaking powerhouse interview that also sets the tone for the course. So you guys will get that for free. And you'll get another interview with Dr. Dorothy Firman and John Shotland from the Synthesis Center, diving into psychospiritual wholeness. So it's a really amazing package.
Oh, I can't wait to see it myself.
Yes, for anybody who upgrades. And then if I can, I have a course coming up that I'd love to share.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. So if anybody is interested in diving in deeper to this work of psychospiritual wholeness, and you'll get the course and you'll get to dive into that. I also have an amazing course coming up in May. That's a 9-month deep dive into this work of psychosynthesis, which is this work of awareness and will, and really fully activating and knowing ourselves through endless methodology, deep theory, and also embodied practice. And then it's a coaching program. So at the end of it, you not only get to engage in this incredible work that is so freaking life-changing, but you get 120 hours of advanced training and then become a psychosynthesis life coach certified, and you can take your national boards to become a board certified life coach, which is the highest recognition.
Yeah. And you can be in the International Coaching Association, right? The ICA.
It's actually there's 2 boards that certify. So that's the ICC. The other one is this one, the ICF, and then this one is the one that actually certifies counselors. And
okay, amazing.
It's on the same footing as far as it's an incredible certification. So that begins in May, and it runs from May to January. And you can find out about it at psychospiritualcoaching.com. And then my main website is inspiredlifeworkshops.org. So those are ways they can find me.
Awesome. And we'll have, everything when you guys go to Val's website to get your amazing free gift for her opt-in.
Exactly.
You'll see all this stuff. So, I'm so like blessed and happy and like amazed at all this beautiful things that you're doing. And thank you so much for being here. Remember, guys, this summit is shareable. Please share the word, spread it like from here to Timbuktu. Everybody needs this work, whether, we're yoga teachers, we're healers, or we're just really conscious entrepreneurs. This is work that everybody needs, your parents, your children. So thank you, Val, so much. Namaste, my love.
Thank you so much for doing your great work in the world. I really honor you, and I feel very blessed to be a part of it. So thank you so much.
Yay.
Yeah.